Not only is the Chelsea Building Products personal, but the management side of it is personal as well. This next generation that I'm currently bringing in and training, they're kind of like my kids. And every parent wants their children to be able to do better than what they did. So that whenever I ride off into the sunset, my goal is the company and the people are in a much better place, I found.
Good morning. It's another day, beautiful day here at Sherwood Lumber, and we got ourselves a beautiful guest today. Gary Hartman, VP of Sales and Marketing from Chelsea Building Products.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm always excited. I think I always am excited. But look, Gary's done. He's done everything. I mean, he grew up in the building products industry. He's worked at low level all the way up. He currently runs a pretty sizable company. And he has a lot of thoughts around brand building. I think we're going to get a lot of cool content today.
Yeah, we're going to hear probably about how do you build a brand, but how do you build a product? How do you think of a product, and how do you bring it to the market? Our listeners out there, they have a lot of ideas, but how do you actually get it? How do you execute it? And I think he's going to teach us a lot. So I'm excited.
Same.
So without further ado, Gary Hartman.
Gary, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Hey, Gary, thanks for joining.
So, Gary, I guess just to get started for our listeners, if you want, I guess briefly tell us about what it is you do and how it is that you got there.
No, sure. A little bit about me is I kind of like to go back to the beginning and tell people that I'm the son of a home builder. So I kind of grew up with sawdust in my veins, and Dad didn't want me to be a pick and shovel guy, so he sent me to college. First person in our family to go to college. And thought I wanted to be an engineer, but nobody told me you had to be good in math to be an engineer. So that didn't work out. So I figured, hey, if I can't build them, I'll sell them. So I got a degree in marketing, got an internship with a window company right out of college. And 41 years later, my entire career has been in the building products industry. And as they say, the rest is history. So it's been a great ride, and I continue to enjoy myself.
And what do roles and responsibilities look like now that you're in the seat that you're in?
Well, it's been an accumulation of experiences. It's interesting. Somebody asked me a month or so ago, what kind of prepared me for what I'm doing today? And I tell them it's everything that I've been involved in, whether starting in customer service, being in sales and marketing, being in product management, to eventually get me to where I am today. So my experience and where I am has been an accumulation of 41 years of dealing in different market segments and with different folks like the good folks at Sherwood, and saying, hey, I get to learn from you as much as you get to learn from me. So that's a bit of advice that I would give to the younger generation as we continue to hire them and sort of groom them to take our place whenever we eventually ride off into the sunset.
Great. Some good advice there. And tell us a little bit more, before we get into the specifics, just tell us a little bit more about Chelsea Building Products. What does Chelsea sell? What do they make? A little background, if you will, just so that our audience knows a little bit more.
Sure. Well, this company actually started a Polytex company, and it's an example of sort of the American dream or American entrepreneurship. Started with a gentleman who had an idea to look at different material systems because he was in the storm window and storm door business. And if you look back into the 60s and the 70s, actually Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania was at the epicenter of material substitution development. And so the gentleman by the name of Mr. Morrow said, I've got this window company and I'm seeing things coming out of Europe to, as far as material substitution going from, say, metals or woods to PVC and composites. Maybe that's an opportunity for me. And so he got some investors to come in with him. He worked with a company called BF Goodrich at the time, who was developing a PVC formulation. And he actually developed the first all vinyl tilt double hung replacement window. But as the story goes, he was successful, but he didn't have enough capital. So he ended up having to sell the extrusion part of the business. He kept the window fabrication part of the business. So that became the impetus then for the Polytex company. And over the years, the company has gone through several ownerships. But again, it's sort of it would make a great case study for a marketing class because it's gone through different ownerships. Some ownerships have been good to the business, some not so much. but it's always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And so even if it may have been short on capital, it wasn't short on ideas to be able to continue to develop its capabilities and its products. So today, if you look at the business, it went from simple windows and doors to windows and doors, Cedar PVC moldings, composite components, railings, and of course, Everlast advanced composite siding. So it really has become a part of its name, Chelsea Building Products. So today, what we do is we look for any opportunity for material substitution, primarily in PVC, that we can really help to solve problems that the exterior building products industry has.
That's great.
And it's interesting because Chelsea is a part of so many building materials that you might not know because they're not always branded Chelsea, but they really integrated themselves across the entire channel. In addition to that, they've done something that is highly extraordinary, which is they've taken a line that they make themselves and they've penetrated the siding space in an incredibly meaningful way. As distributors of Everlast siding, I think we know better than most. But Gary, can you tell us a little bit about what that journey was like from going from kind of a non-brand to a brand and building this thing up and really having a pretty sizable amount of success?
Yeah, it's a great example of a company not saying no. Actually, we had a distribution company and actually manufacturing company as well come to us because they couldn't solve a problem. And that problem was wanting to develop the next generation of composite siding. And for us, I mean, it was like they came to us and said, can you help us to solve this problem? And of course, once you know, it was during the downturn. And so we had some time and some space and some resources. And so they gave us an opportunity to play. And so in the time frame of 2007, 2008, we had come up with what we thought was a commercially acceptable solution to the problem that they were trying to solve. So we went to them and said, well, hey, we think we've come up with a product solution. What do you think? They agreed. They had the distribution, they had the marketing, they had the customer base, and we had the product solution. So for the first several years of this product introduction, it was private label. We had then gone through a transition of being owned by a Belgian chemical company to private equity here in the United States. And so private equity was watching everything that was going on. And, private equity gets a little bit impatient at times. And they said, hey, you've got a great solution, but our path to market is sort of holding us back. So private equity gave us the opportunity to be able to buy all the rights of the product from the customer, keep the customer as our customer, so to speak. But then that gave us the opportunity to be able to build a sales, a marketing, and a distribution channel all of our own. And it was pretty exciting because that was the first time that Chelsea Building Products actually had to develop this infrastructure to be able to support a brand going through the channel directly to the consumer. So the journey has been pretty exciting watching how this thing has evolved over time.
Gary, in your mind, having gone through everything that you guys have gone through and being where you're at today, what's been the hardest part getting to this point?
I think the hardest part is for us to understand what the end customer was looking for, getting that information back through the channel, and then being able to develop the tools and the product that the channel needed to be able to satisfy the needs of the customer. Because if you think about it, I mean, we were just dealing with OEM in the past. So basically, we load up a truckload of stuff, we ship it to them, and they were kind of on their own. Where now we get to work with every step in the channel, sort of understand what those requirements are, and develop those programs and products to be able to support that.
Cool. You talked about before how Chelsea doesn't say no, or you don't like to say no. Take us in the minds of, or the meetings of how this happens. You have so many different products, and you've built. I'm sure you have products that have failed. You have products that have succeeded. Take us in the process of when you have an idea or someone has an idea. How does that work? How does it make its way up the chain to a place where there's a yes? And just the whole from infancy all the way through. If you could maybe share some examples or how that process works.
Sure. Well, I've always come into the mindset, and I guess this is based upon previous experience, that whenever I'm having a conversation with a prospect, I have nothing to sell them. I always go in with a blank piece of paper and a pen. And as the adage goes, we were all born with one mouth and two ears. So listen twice as long as you talk. And so really it's understanding what the customer wants, what their needs are, and then trying to align that with the customer's, or I should say the company's capabilities. And so if you don't go in with a preconceived notion of what the customer needs, that gives you a better opportunity to say, how can I help to solve this problem? And that's one of the things that I've tried to instill in this business and in my selling organization is go into every opportunity as, how can I figure out how to solve the problem? Don't go into it as, how is this an opportunity to be able to sell the product? So then to be able to come back with all of those notes, all that information, say, okay, fine, I've got a customer or I've got a prospect that has a problem. How can we help them to solve it with either the capabilities that we have or the capabilities that we can develop? And so that's what has allowed us to be able to expand in all these other different categories within the building product space.
Very cool. Not all companies are structured and set up in a way where they're going to be looking for new, right? They kind of have what they have and they want to promote that. At least that's what it feels like. Well, how is Chelsea set up in a way that embraces the new?
I think that is from us getting exposed to different companies and learning things. I give you a great example. Years ago, I actually walked into a company that I thought was a building products distribution company. And we wanted to have a conversation with them about cellular PVC moldings. And listening to them talk, my perception of who they were was completely different than who they thought they were. You're saying, what do you mean by that? Well, I walked into a company and I thought that what they did was they bought building products from manufacturers. They then shipped those products to their customers and went downstream. And they said, oh, we're not a distribution company, we're a logistics company. I go, really? What does that mean? They said, well, we do. We take product from one place, we configure it into a truckload, and we ship it to another place. So what they did was they actually shifted the complete paradigm of what I thought a distribution company was. And it was interesting because today that company, they don't deal in building products, they deal in consumer goods and so forth. Why? Because they buy from one manufacturer, they stick it in a truck, and they ship it to somebody else. And that's the sort of the approach that Chelsea Building Products takes as well as, well, what are you? Are you an extrusion company or are you a building products company? What we are is we're a material substitution company. We say, whatever it is made of today, can it be made out of what we do tomorrow? And so it's really taking a look at yourself in the mirror and saying, what type of company are you? And how can you leverage then what you are, what your capabilities are to serve the needs of the marketplace?
Yeah, I just learned something because I don't think I knew that. So I appreciate you sharing that. As you grow, how do you keep this vision alive? How do you help the larger sales force and marketing force understand kind of this core concept?
It's a lot of coaching. And I think that COVID created some good things and some bad things. Bad things from a standpoint, it caused us to have to pivot and have to change the way we do things. I think good things from a standpoint of it changed the way people sort of approach their business. And what I found is it gives me as a manager an opportunity to talk to younger folks who don't know the old ways, but to be able to interject, say, my experiences with them, be able to spend more time with them, coaching them, and being able to take them out and get them to basically observe the way things are. And I found one of the best ways for me to manage or to nurture, say, the next generation of salespeople or marketing people is to spend time with them. I hate to use the analogy, but I think it's the best one. It's sort of like your kids, and spending time with your kids and participating in the activities with your kids and getting to experience different things together. And whether you're in a car riding between appointments and then you get to talk about things. And so as you develop those relationships, as you develop those ways of doing things, then you can sort of transfer knowledge, good, bad, or indifferent, go from me who's been doing this for a while to somebody who's still learning how to do it.
And for aspiring sales people out there or aspiring sales leaders out there, in your wealth of experience, where do you think those types of people get it wrong the most? Where is that time spent coaching? Where is the disconnect?
That's a good question. I would say in some cases, people think that attitude can get them through a situation.
Yeah.
I think that people think that previous experiences can get them through a current situation. Um, I think one of the greatest things that we can teach the next generation is two things: patience and listening. That if we can teach them that, then I think that they have a better likelihood of success in the future in their careers.
So I'm also a parent. So is Todd. Patience and listening. Can you help us? How do you teach that?
That's probably a conversation for another day, right? The parental training.
He's asking for a friend.
I know, right?
Well, what would you recommend, like in terms of teaching the sales guys and gals? Like what's a strategy for teaching that skill of listening and that skill of patience?
Well, kind of getting back to the whole parent thing. Every child is not the same, and every person, every adult is not the same as well. So I think it's incumbent upon us as managers to sort of learn the personality of the individuals that we're dealing with and sort of caters the wrong word, but sort of adjust, our approach to each individual. But that's the thing, looking at Todd, Todd's been doing this for a period of time, and I'm sure that he's dealt with a lot of different personalities in his career, like I have. And in order to be successful, it's not a one size fits all. We need to be able to adjust our approach to every situation that we're going to deal with.
What I will say though is what I have learned that is a broad stroke. I think a lot of times in sales, Gary said be a good listener, which I think is universally true. I think a lot of times we get one part wrong, which is you got to ask a lot of questions more than you got to give a lot of answers. And if I could reframe that, what I tell our Sherwood people is it's not about asking questions so much as it about having a high desire to be highly curious. Because the difference between asking questions and being curious, in my opinion, is in one sense you're trying to figure out this person. In the other sense, you're trying to figure out what makes it work. And so one of the things I don't know if you agree, Gary, but in my opinion, this one of the strongest sales acumens that we could look for is a high degree of curiosity. I think when we find that, you find the people that want to ask the questions to figure out how to make it work, versus just trying to figure out what this individual's truth is. Thoughts?
Yeah, and I would absolutely agree with that. And one of the most powerful questions that you can ask, but it's one of the most annoying, and 2-year-olds are great at doing that, is the question, why?
Why? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we had a coach in our company, and one of his big things was he gave out bracelets. Resort to curiosity.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Either a Ted Lasso or a Walt Whitman. I'm not sure who gets credit in today's day and age, but they both said it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is too, I mean, not only do we say that, but it's curiosity. I mean, don't kind of lock yourself into, one way, one line of thinking, but always kind of continue to ask the question, why?
I got a new phrase for us. Curiosity skinned the cat.
So we sell the product at Sherwood. We distribute the product Everlast. When did you know? You talked about before how private equity helped you buy the rights to the product, or that was an example.
Mm-hmm.
But when did you know? When was the aha moment for Everlast to know like we got ourselves a product here that's gonna work, and it's time to go all in?
I mean, from the time that we first launched the product with the customer to the point in time that we took it over, I mean, that was about 8 years. So that was really, it gave us an opportunity to sort of learn what the market required. I've had some people say we got the hard part right, which was the product. Because many times you'll find a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll come up with an idea and they start to build the sales and the marketing program around the idea, and then they struggle to try and figure out the product. With us, we had the product, and then what we had to do is we had to put the team together and then reach out to people like Sherwood who had the experience in the channel and say, help us to learn. We needed to ask the questions, why? Why does the channel need this? Why do they want that type of program? Why are these tools important? Because we didn't have that experience in the past. We had the product, but the product is only one part of the equation in being successful and being able to promote it and sell it downstream.
And Gary, it seems from my perception, specific to the Everlast line, you guys are trying to expand your geographic reach. And with that's going to come new distribution partners. And for someone who might be listening, can you define what makes an ideal distribution partner for Everlast?
That's a great question, because early on, we thought that a great distribution partner was somebody that just had locations and inventory. Because we were told one of the most important things that the market wanted was access to product when they wanted it. But the other thing that we started to find out was that manufacturers can only do so much to be able to promote the product and the brand downstream. We need good, strong partners that are not only willing to have product on the ground, but have boots on the ground. I hate to use a religious analogy, but have boots on the ground and disciples that can help the manufacturers to preach the good word, so to speak, to be able to promote the product downstream. And so that's why it takes us a while to learn who those types of companies are. And selfish plug, that's why we're very fortunate to find a company like Sherwood, because Sherwood does check all the boxes regarding the type of partner that Everlast is looking for.
So you're looking not only looking for the locations, that's obvious, but you also need the company that's focused on helping push the product out.
Yes.
And that's unique because it requires time and commitment.
It does, and it truly is. It truly is a partnership, both from a financial standpoint and also a resource standpoint.
In your mind, Gary, why is that hard to find?
I think it's hard to find for Chelsea because we're sort of late in the game, so to speak. If you look at, some of our other competitors in the space, those were companies that already had channels established, and then they brought new products or new ideas into the channel. I don't want to say that we were backwards as a bad thing, but we were sort of backwards as we had the product and the program. We just didn't have the partners. So now it's like finding that right partner who wants to get into the category, wants that next new thing, and can participate in the success of Everlast with us. And unfortunately, some partners are kind of blocked out of that because they've already made commitments to other manufacturers.
So, yeah, good point. So all manufacturers are created differently. Some are big, some are small, some develop a product and then go all in. I'm really interested. I keep kind of asking similar type questions of, when do you make a decision, or how does Everlast thinking about their product? When do we, maybe have to raise more money, or maybe have to grow to like really go all in? Or do we just do we grow at a slow pace or a medium pace? Like how are these decisions made? Who's making these decisions? I think it's just very interesting to know how this goes on, because sometimes you see a company that goes from like one location in one part of the country, and all of a sudden they've got 5 more plants going crazy and trying to push out the product. And then the alternative, you see companies that grow at a slow pace. How do you make your decisions, and where do you fit in that?
Sure. Well, what we did was we acquired Everlast in 2016. So we acquired all the rights to that. Private equity had still owned us. Private equity looked at that as an investment to add additional value to sell the company. So in 2017, they sold Chelsea Building Products to a privately held German company called Aluplast. One of the reasons Aluplast bought Chelsea is because it's a diversified business. They're a very large company. They're a global company. And I'm not using the term only in a negative light, but they only do window and door profiles. So they looked at us as a stepping stone to get into the North American market in the window segment, but we had all these other capabilities that they could leverage in North America, as well as eventually to export as well. So they've been taking their time up until several years ago to say, okay, fine, we want to learn this business. We want to learn the marketplace, but now's the time to start making commitments and start to push. So last year, We made announcements that we had acquired additional property here in the state of Pennsylvania. We are acquiring the facility that we've had down in Texas since 2018. And what we are going to do is build a new plant here in Pennsylvania to be able to move window and door operations out of where we are located here in Oakmont to that new facility to be able to commit the majority of the footprint of Oakmont to Everlast. So that trigger or that switch, so to speak, happened in 2023. 2024 has been an interesting year. We all know that we've been dealing with geopolitical situations. We've been dealing with economic situations, but that did not stop our plans. So ground will be broken first quarter of next year for the second plant. We will have acquired Texas, and Oakmont will start the transition between doing everything to committing 100% over the next 5 years to Everlast. So we are now making that decision to push to be a major factor in the composite siding segment.
Well, it's exciting to hear. If I'm listening to your journey, you guys have done a bunch. I'm sure you've gotten an MBA just in the experience in your seat. As a leader, how do you continue to grow yourself? How do you stay dynamic? What does that kind of growth evolution look like?
To me, to stay dynamic, it's being exposed to the next generation. You know, I'm not in the final chapter, but I'm further to the back of the book than I am to the front of the book.
Yeah, sure.
But one of the things that allows me to do is that allows me to spend time with the next generation. And I'm the type of manager, and let me back up. This is my second tour of duty with Chelsea. I was there for 10 years. I was gone for 13, but you never forgot about the girl who brought you to the dance. So I was always watching her from the sidelines, and I watched her in good times and I watched her in bad times. And I had an opportunity to come back in 2008, which were in some cases the worst of times, right?
No doubt.
So I got an opportunity to kind of rebuild what I had built before. So for me, it kind of became personal. So not only is the Chelsea Building Products personal, but the management side of it is personal as well. And this next generation that I'm currently bringing in and training, they're kind of like my kids, right? And every parent wants their children to be able to do better than what they did. So I've got a personal journey on the company side, and I got a personal journey on the personnel side, so that whenever I ride off into the sunset, my goal is the company and the people are in a much better place than I found them.
How many times have you told that story to your employees? Because I just assume if you're someone that hears the leader say, like, look, this thing means this much to me and I came back and I love it, I just have to assume that that's real power.
I tell the story all the time. And the reason being is that if it sticks, great. If it's boring to them, oh well. But I don't want to say that the current generation feels a little bit enabled, so to speak. But it's like, if they can get a little nugget from somebody like us that's worked in multiple companies, and I'm not suggesting that that's what you have to do, or you've had to uproot your family and you've had to move for your job, but to say, you know what, if there was a reason for everything that I did and it got me to where I am today, it's worth the journey. And that's really what they have to do. They have to look at not only their life as a journey, but they have to look at their career as a journey. So that's one of the things that I try and instill in my staff.
And it's wonderful. Kind of along a similar vein of giving advice and giving advice to your staff, but this is advice for the building products industry. For anyone listening, what's your advice for balancing operational demands or day-to-day demands with staying future focused and innovative? How do you balance the two?
I think for us in sales and marketing, we're in a very unique position. And also I'll pull into that my product management experience is I've got to work as hard on my external customers as I do my internal customers. And there's no better function than mine to say, hey, fine, I've got to satisfy the needs of my external customers, but I've got to convince my internal customers that I've got a good path forward. And so I'm doing as much selling internally as I am externally. And if I know what I'm talking about and I've got, good convincing skills, so to speak, and I build a good argument not only to sell the new customer, but to sell the internal customer, everybody is going to have success. And so that's one of the things that COVID did as well, is because we couldn't get out and travel as much. It actually gave me an opportunity to build stronger relationships internally, with my operational folks, my logistics folks, product design. But I guess, kind of selfish plug for Chelsea Building Products. One of the ways that we've organized the company is everything that touches the customer reports to sales and marketing, which we think is vitally important, because then at least the customer interaction between customer and the company is focused. And then that allows me to then build relationships internally so that they can understand, the internal functions can understand what the external functions are doing to maintain and nurture the customer relationship and the customer experience.
That's really cool. So, Gary, at Sherwood, we have two things that we really love. We love selling building products, and we love double entendres. And so we're going to move to a couple of segments that are all double entendre related. The first one we have in all of our podcasts is called Saw It Coming. Saw, paying homage to our lumber history. Just want to talk about some future market predictions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right, let's start easy for you. I'll throw you a softball. What are your predictions for the siding market over the next 3 years?
Overall siding market or Everlast?
I want you to choose how you'd like to answer that question, and if we want to drill down, we'll choose to.
Okay. Well, Everlast, we're being very bullish. We're expected to be booking anywhere between 25 to 40% market increase on a per annualized basis. Now, whether the market can support that or not, I don't think the overall market can, but I think that Everlast can, because of the type of product that it is, where it is in the product life cycle, and all the advantages that the product brings to the marketplace.
So I'm just going to ask, I'm going to dig on that question.
I'd like to dig one more time after you're done. Go ahead.
The question is, why are you growing 25%? Is it, or to 30%? Is it replacing a different product that already exists? Is it because of alternatives replacing wood as an overall bigger picture, and therefore there's more room for Everlast and other products as well? Or is there some other reason?
It's yes, yes, and yes. We're taking share from other products because, excuse the expression, we're the shiny new thing. Yep. And the marketplace likes innovation, and they like something different. Second thing is, with the shiny new thing, if it's done right, you can make money. And everybody wants to be able to make money throughout the entire chain. The third thing is that we do have a labor crisis here in the United States. So we are able to solve or take away some of the pain points of the labor issues in the marketplace. So Everlast gives the market many, many advantages that we believe will be able to grow at the pace that we're expecting it to.
So Mikey asked the how. I'm going to ask the where. Where does this growth come from?
It comes from everywhere.
Segment wise, can you talk to me where you think it comes from in the next 3 years for Everlast? Is it new construction? Is it multifamily? Is it residential? Is it yes?
Yes is always a great answer, isn't it? But if you push me, I'm going to say it's going to be more R&R. I think it's also going to be multifamily. But I think it's going to be more multifamily where it's a build and hold or invest and hold versus an invest and flip. Just because it's the right product from an overall maintenance cost standpoint. And so we found great success in multifamily, the build and to hold.
Right. Another future market prediction question. Are there any emerging trends you believe will reshape the industry? Anything out there that's unique and coming out?
The overall industry, I think it's fascinating for me to watch retail. I'm not a big retail guy. I'm more of a wholesale and traditional channel guy, but you're just seeing so much more influence in the Lowe's, the Home Depot, and the Menards, not only in consumer buying habits, but also in pro building habits. So I think that we're going to continue to see more and more pressure, on the retail side in the next 3 to 5 years, more so than we've ever seen before. And obviously, they're the drivers as far as, I'll call it, new technology, not necessarily in technology in product, but technology in presentation technology in pricing, and technology in how to move the product from the store to the consumer or store to the job site.
That is interesting. I mean, it's definitely growing, and they're making acquisitions and growing themselves.
Yeah.
And they influence so many of us, like you said. So next segment, material moments. This is more personalized. So can you share a defining personal story from your career that shaped your approach to leadership or product innovation? Either of the two.
Uh, from a professional standpoint, I think the opportunity to come back to Chelsea Building Products. It's interesting that throughout our careers, I mean, we're all motivated to make change by different reasons, whether it be by title, whether it be, financial or what have you. Um, the Chelsea Building Products situation gave me a little bit of everything. It gave me a chance to get into the segment that I wanted to, help to rebuild the business and come back to Western Pennsylvania. So really, me coming back to Chelsea Building Products was, sort of the perfect scenario, so to speak. Because that's one of the things that's always a challenge as a professional is where do you get the balance? Where do you get the joy? And for me, everything lined up to be able to do that.
That's great.
And if you can, share with us your favorite sales story to date, whether it be because it's a funny story or it proves something to be true that maybe you didn't know. But what's your overall kind of like best story that you're telling around the bar with your employees?
Best sales story. Well, we actually had one of my mentors retire 2 years ago. So what we did was we did a roast with him. And so we all got to stand up and give a story. And his name is Terry, but I won't tell you what his last name is. And Terry was a wonderful person. He was the poster boy for ADD. And so one of my favorite stories is I just recently came back to Chelsea Building Products, and this is in 2009. This is before, technology is where it is today in vehicles. So we're driving along 81 from Philadelphia to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Terry's driving. I'm in the passenger seat, and he goes, "Here, take the wheel." And I say, "What do you mean take the wheel?" He goes, "Take the wheel. I need to check emails." And I go, we're driving on the interstate at 70 miles an hour, and you need to check emails." And he goes, "Yeah, but we're running late, and I don't want to take time to pull over." He said, "I'll work the gas and I'll work the brake. You just tell me when I need to brake, and then you make sure that we don't drive off the road." So we went about 30 miles. My left arm was getting numb, and I said, "You know what? I can't do this anymore. I mean, I'm either you're going to pull over, or I'm going to tell your wife this story." Well, I didn't tell her the story in 2009, but I did tell her this story when we roasted him 2 years ago for his
I'm
goodbye.
surprised you went to 30 miles. That's incredible.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's about a half hour.
I know. Well, not the way he was driving. It was about 20 minutes.
15 minutes.
Right. But you know
so
what?
you said it brought you back to Western Pennsylvania. Where were you prior to that?
Our journey has taken us from Western Pennsylvania to Western Virginia to Southern Ohio to Wisconsin and back to Western Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And the woman I married must love me because she keeps following me to all these different places. So I love her. That's right. She's going to be up for sainthood at some point in time.
Gary, if you had to describe your ideal Everlast home, go ahead and make that for us.
Ideal Everlast home. Right now, I'm fascinated by how do you pronounce it? Barnium? The Barnium, where you've got these new homes that look like barns.
Oh, yeah. It's like
Barnumonium,
the farmhouse.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some of them that just absolutely look stunning with, white Everlast board and batten on it and black windows and doors. And it's, put it on a hilltop, in the midst of 40 acres with some woods in the back. I mean, it's just a phenomenal sight.
You just described Mikey's house, sans the 40 acres and the forest in the back, but I think you just literally just got done doing that job.
You gotta send me a picture.
I'll definitely send you a picture. I never heard the term Barnium. I like that one. And I could see how that used. Yeah, it's definitely like a modern farmhouse, and it's got the look inside as well, and similarly. So I did both on the outside and the inside, and whiteboard and batten, like you said.
Fantastic.
And the black shutters and the black trim too, right?
Yeah, and the black. Yep, black windows.
There we go. Yeah. You're styling, man.
Yeah, Everlast.
I'm doing Everlast this year. Only I'm doing Flagstone, so I'm not living his dream.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great. And not only did I do it, but like the whole neighborhood liked it, and I got 3 other people in my neighborhood to use it without selling it, right? Just asking.
And I mean, and that's the great thing, and that's one of our missions, right? Is to get out and spread the word. And we found, just like you mentioned, that I mean, once you get the first one, it's not too hard to get the second one or the
Yeah.
third one.
There's
Yeah,
4 in my neighborhood now, and there were 0 3 years ago. So it's pretty cool.
great, fantastic.
If you weren't in the building products industry, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be either building new homes or being a remodeler.
Like your family?
I mean, I think that it's for me, it's interesting sitting down and talking to remodeling contractors because we talk about how to present the product to Mr. and Mrs. Jones, how we need to sell the 3 things in any selling situation. We need to sell ourselves, we need to sell our company, we need to sell our product. And just to be able to go through that entire process. And that's what really gets me excited, is because the ultimate measure of success is Mr. and Mrs. Jones putting our product on their house.
All right. You gave us your best piece of advice. I'm interested to hear Terry's best piece of advice he ever gave to you.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
That's what. Okay.
What was it?
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Ah,
Yeah.
there's the listening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't shake the wheel while I'm driving.
That's right.
What
You stay focused when the truck gets too
Yeah.
close. Tell me to push the brake. Yeah.
I think that's all we have for you today. Gary, we really appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and hey, looking forward to coming to the Sherwood sometime, and pushing some Everlast, huh?
Looking forward to having you here. That was great. Learned a lot, really did. So thank you for sharing, and we appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thanks. I hope you have a great remainder of 2024, and let's knock it out of the park in 2025.
All right, so Gary, thank you so much for joining us, Mikey. I love what happened there. I'll say one thing, and I hope I'm not guilty in the ether here, but the story about Gary doing emails with someone holding the wheel. I have had a very similar story, only my Tesla's doing the driving and my head's completely down. I actually think what Gary was doing is probably more safe than what I've been guilty as charged of.
Well, what I've been doing is driving a gas car, not an electric car that doesn't drive by itself, and looking at my emails. So I'm pretty guilty myself.
Well, if you like our content, stay tuned. Next week, we have Rita Ferris, who is the president of NRLA, and I think we'll learn a lot about how they've been building up their organization and really building a community.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of insight of building a group like that, which is very unique.
See us next time on Stockton Delivered.